To answer the question on everybody's mind, yes, I am hard at work on the video that will discuss the canonicity of LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. It's going to be a big one, and I'm doing something special for it, so it's going to take a little bit for that one to come out. While doing research for that video and other LEGO Batman lore-related subjects, I often encounter details that, while not supporting of the overall narrative, are still things that I find interesting. The shading that makes up the color of LEGO DC's world, if you will. And I think I've finally encountered enough of them that it warrants its own short video on the subjects. So in preparation for LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight's dissection, let's take a look at the lore and ideas that we don't get to focus on, the ones that are hiding beneath the surface, implied or otherwise. The first place I'd like to stop at is in LEGO DC Supervillains, where one character's description could have saved me a whole lot of trouble when creating the original LEGO Batman timeline. Throughout those videos, we had a sort of push and pull argument for non-essential free-play characters being relevant to the overall world. For example, even though we never see, say, Doomsday in LEGO Batman 3's story, does it imply that the League has already had a run-in with Darkseid? There was no definitive way to write these bonus inclusions off as non-canon without disputing the canonicity of each game, until I got a closer look at LEGO DC Supervillains. This game has little descriptions for every character on the roster, going into either their comic or film origin. And there were a lot of cases here of characters who could mess up our timeline if we were to take them all at face value. However, John Kent, aka Superboy's description, gives us an easy out to not have to consider anything outside of the story as relevant. His Argus blurb reads that he's from an alternate timeline, but somehow found his way into our roster. He isn't part of the world of LEGO Batman, he's included here for the heck of it. So why wouldn't Black Adam or Brainiac and LEGO Batman 2 be the same? Both of them being actually present in the universe at that point in the story would break everything. So John Kent proving that characters can just be Easter eggs was a huge find. Look, in order to do research for videos like this, I have to play a lot of games. There are 5 DC games I had to go through just for this video alone, and that's not counting the other 22 I have to play for non-DC videos. Gaming has become an expensive hobby, but luckily, today's sponsor, Aniba, has you covered. Last time we talked about Aniba.com, I showed myself using their digital marketplace to purchase Batman Arkham Origins for like $3. And this time, I wanted to focus on their assortment of gaming gift cards. First off, what is Aniba? To put it simply, they are a fast-growing online business specializing in gaming and gaming deals with some incredibly insane discounts and a great cashback program. Like, look at this. A $100 Xbox Live gift card going for $90? Like, how does that make any sense? They've got deals for every game and system imaginable. Whether you're a pure PC Steam gamer, Xbox, PlayStation, you name it, they have it, with over 40,000 virtual products available. Now, I know there are some safety concerns when purchasing from third parties, but as somebody who has used the platform before, I can guarantee you it is 100% safe. If you don't want them to have your information for whatever reason, you can always just check out with PayPal, or something of the likes. It's easy and can be done in just a few simple clicks. Aniba checks and verifies all of their sellers, and you can even see their individual rating for extra reassurance if you need it. They have incredible deals going on right now for LEGO video games, so if there's a game you haven't picked up or tried yet and you want to for a much lower price point, choose Aniba. Use my link down below to get started on Aniba.com and don't miss the insane deals going on right now. Thanks to Aniba for sponsoring this video. I covered a lot of the bigger story points in the timeline video and its various shoot-offs, which you should go watch, by the way, if you think that I'm, like, leaving something out. However, this is an opportunity for us to not just look at the story and the lore, but also the characters. A while back, I made a full video on Red Hood and what happened to Jason Todd in the LEGO Batman universe, and came to the conclusion that what had most likely happened was his DCAU tie-in comic fate, which has him barely surviving an explosion caused by the Joker. This could also be an homage to Under the Red Hood, or Death in the Family, obviously, but I like to imagine that, much like LEGO Batman 1, the characters more or less follow their arcs and storylines from the Timverse. It would be interesting if we got a follow-up to Legacy of the Dark Knight that included this second Robin in some capacity, but I'm not hedging my bets on it. A lot of times when Batman media wants to remain ambiguous, they sort of combine Jason and Tim into some sort of Tayson Jod combination of Robin, much like how the first LEGO Batman game did. A fun fact that I missed out on in that video, if you were ever unsure if the developers plan to acknowledge Jason Todd, the old LEGO Batman game website calls Tim the third Robin. So they were thinking of him to some degree, just probably not this far ahead. Him coming back in LEGO Batman 3 was honestly kind of shocking to me. Something I also had to cover in that main timeline video that I wish I could have expounded upon further was the Amazo project. It's weird how the story of DC supervillains sort of hinges on the idea that the Rookie is some sort of adapted Amazo, but never really resolves that aspect of it. Like, yeah, it's revealed that he's from Earth 3, but we never get a resolution as to Luthor and Dr. Ivo's connection to Amazo in universe. Which is even weirder when you realize that Amazo isn't in the game, at all. Okay, let's walk through this. Technically, Amazo is the second villain you hear name-dropped in the game, second only to Lex Luthor. And you weren't going to put him in the roster? Sure, maybe the power absorption aspect of the character would have been hard to work in, but you have Parasite in the game, and they're practically the same, functionally. Regardless, I love that they included this line in here at all. This is how you flesh out a world, right? You call back to the past to unveil something we never saw, but fits in so well, and then tie it into the future. It's not a retcon, but it is retroactive foreshadowing. When you go back to play LEGO Batman 2, for example, and hear Batman mention that Luthor might not be as clean as he looks, you might think of exactly this. While we never get any more information on their attempted team-up, we do know just based off of other context clues that this happened around 5 years before the first LEGO Batman game, which, if anywhere, is just a little bit after Legacy could potentially take place, but, more on that in August. This does beg the question, though. With Lex's countless trips to prison and public scandals, how does LexCorp remain open? I mean, they've now been tied to not just the creation of super weapons, tyrannical attempts to overthrow the president and the government, and, world-ending plots. He's barely a free man long enough to sit in his office, let alone run a full company. Believe it or not, DC Supervillains also gives us an answer to this question. Inside the description given to Mercy, Luthor's cyborg assistant, we can read that she in fact has been the one running the company in his absence. It's currently unconfirmed whether she's the same cyborg receptionist from LEGO Batman 2, but I am starting to lean towards no, since Supervillains implies her origin as human with machine enhancements rather than the opposite. This thing looks like not human at all. This goes hand in hand with Superwoman's description, which tells us that she kind of abuses her former relationship and partnership with Maz Oz to stay out of trouble, which we directly see happen in the cutscene after fight at the museum. Again, these are the details that can fill in the gaps and breathe life into the games, and they're especially meaningful because they can be few and far between in LEGO games. This brings me to my next topic I want to discuss, and that is the implied off-screen storylines that take place either before the games or between them. Let's get the biggest one out of the way first. It's present in both LEGO Batman the video game and Legacy of the Dark Knight, and that is Nightfall. This is the famous story where Batman gets put out of commission by Bane and has to retrain himself to take back Gotham City. In the meantime, a skilled but unrelenting Azrael takes over the mantle of Batman. We first get a tease of this storyline on LEGO Batman the video game by not just the presence of Azrael as a character in the handheld port and character customizer, but also in the game's data entries, where it recaps the story. Then, in Legacy, we see the Dark Knight's film adaptation of this arc in Chapter 6, but mostly just the Bane stuff. Without delving too much into how this will affect our timeline, it's interesting how much the retelling of these events differ. Hearing about it in the first LEGO Batman game does put into perspective how much this Batman has already gone through. Again, it's implied he lost a Robin, his friend Harvey, and even nearly lost his city. The cartoonish mood of the game really does contrast how much tragedy is found in these data entries, but that's not even the worst of it. In Legacy of the Dark Knight's Arkham Asylum level, you come face to face with the mutant leader, a gigantic futuristic-looking brute. He's the only character in this massive fight that doesn't really have a specific name, so where does he come from? Well, he's from the Dark Knight Returns storyline, which features an older Bruce having to come out of retirement in order to stop the mutant leader's destructive tirade through Gotham City. I don't know how he exists this early into Batman's career, but if it's implying that at some point he's going to have to live through the Dark Knight Returns, well, good luck, man. I think the only other storyline we get a dedicated reference to in the games comes from the inclusion of the OMAC drones in DC supervillains. Come on, again, no Amazo, but a fucking OMAC drone, like really? Anyways, the OMAC storyline is a pretty bleak one, and it's mostly a commentary on surveillance states and the abuse of power that comes with them. I'll spare you the full details, but it functions as one of the many preludes to Infinite Crisis, which is a big DC comic event. It's an okay run, but it's very hard to recap in a short amount of time. You also have the really small things like Kryptonite being found in Batman 1 and Legacy that hopefully foreshadow Superman's eventual appearance. You've got the earthquakes that cause the city to fall down and be rebuilt in between games. The name dropping of the Teen Titans and Young Justice just so much that whether it be intentional or not, just add up to create such a unique world that I'll always look back fondly on, even if at times it was a huge mess. I wanted to close today's video talking about something I've covered well before on this channel, but nobody watched that video, so I'm going to do it again. I mentioned it briefly earlier, but there's an archive website that was once used for the promotion of LEGO Batman the video game. Here you can find little blurbs about the game and its characters, and back in 2008, download fun widgets to keep you updated on progress being made on the game and other kind of, fun details. While there are a lot of interesting little facts in here, like the Mad Hatter coveting Batman's cowl, my favorite has to do with, you guessed it, Killer Moth. The website states that although Batgirl originally donned her costume to upset her father, she just so happened to also save Bruce Wayne from an attempted kidnapping by Killer Moth. It's why before Legacy came out, I was so adamant on Killer Moth's inclusion. He's always been a main foe to Batgirl, and in many cases, gave her the drive to put on the mask in the first place. Instead, Firefly has begun taking his place in the many reboots of her origin, including in LEGO form. A fun fan theory I've seen thrown around in recent years is that Killer Moth was killed at the end of LEGO Batman 3's Task Force X DLC, because Amanda Waller says this.
His moving speech allowed the squad time to effectively flank and then squash this insect.
This would explain his absence from DC supervillains, and I think it's just silly. Aside from her, though, I do like how the website implies that there was once going to be strength walls in the game, which, ended up coming back in future entries, and that Riddler had, like, an AoE disable attack. I seriously recommend checking out this website if you have the time. It's really cool to look into some of the more unseen aspects of the game. The same goes for the Prima guide, which I've covered before. It has images of the beta designs of a couple characters, even outdated maps and photos of levels. Hell, it even manages to mislabel the abilities of a few free-play characters. It's one of the only insights we have into an early version of the game. This all goes to show that the world of LEGO Batman has more care put into it than you might initially think. The attempts to retroactively link certain events and characters and locations back to each other works flawlessly nearly every time, and if the old universe is truly gone, well, it had a great run. Thanks for watching, and I want to know down below your favorite piece of Batman lore that affects the overall world. It could be a huge thing, like a story element or a plot line, or it could be as small as, Mercy running LexCorp. What sort of details do you like to see in these games? Of course, I didn't talk about dimensions at all in this video because that's a whole different can of worms, but yeah, thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you next week. Goodbye.